Hey everybody, George the Tech. We are continuing our series of trusted partner profiles, and Martha Kahn is my guest today, and she is an excellent coach who works with children specifically, but knows the voice and is a great coach on all levels. And here she is to share a little bit about the process in the one-on-one level of voice acting. Martha Kahn. How you doing, Martha?
Hey, George, thank you so much for inviting me to share. Really appreciate that.
You and I have known each other a really long time. We're dear friends. And so the hardest part of what we're doing today is just giving this 10,000 foot view when both of us, especially yourself as a coach, know so much. So what we really want to do is just tell folks who are thinking about voiceover or want to understand it better, or maybe even they come from a technical background and they want to understand what the voice actor does in their role to interpret script and perform and record themselves, just so they can feel better informed in the context of audio engineering. So you're working with a student, they're exploring voiceover, they're looking at what the process. What are some of the key points they have to start with? I'm assuming, let's just say they get a script on their lap, their script comes into their inbox. What should they do first?
Well, I think the hardest part of working, especially with kids, is not taking the kid out of the kid, or even with adults, not taking the personality out of that person,
Right,
or be authentic, to be
right,
real. I think buyers today are looking for real people.
right.
So we want that authenticity. And so the first thing that I do, and I have to give credit where credit is due,
Hmm.
uh, the way that I teach kids and adults is what I learned from James Alberger in
Hmm.
The Art of Voice Acting, in his book, The Art of Voice Acting. And it's the ABCs of voice acting.
Mm.
When you're a kid, you learn the ABCs of reading
Hmm.
and writing. And so in voiceover, I teach the ABCs of voiceover. A being who is your audience?
Mm.
When people read a script, they just read the words and they don't think about who they're talking to.
Right.
And so when I ask them to pick an audience, who are you talking to? They'll go, well, I'm talking to a room full of people.
Hmm.
And I say to them, well, that's very nice, but a room full of people is very vague and it doesn't bring you any intimacy. So we're always talking to usually one person. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's a couple of people, but we're always talking to somebody. It's either somebody, and I have a wonderful coach that I've worked with named Malik Berger, who always says we're either talking to somebody older who has authority over us, somebody we have authority over. So either a parent, a teacher, an older adult, or
Hmm.
somebody we have authority over, somebody younger, a sibling, a younger cousin, or a peer, a
Hmm.
friend. And so we're always picking somebody that we know. When we go back and do that same script and we've picked an audience, that script then becomes something more intimate, something more authentic.
Right, right, exactly. Who
And
are you
all of us,
talking to?
yes, who are you talking to? And so all of a sudden I'm talking to you, George, and I say, hey, when I went into Petco and buying something for my pet, and I'm talking to you, all of a sudden we're not just reading words, we're
Right,
making it sound more interesting.
right, absolutely.
So that's A. And then we
And,
talk about backstory.
hmm.
What happened right before you opened your mouth? What was the pre life of that commercial or narration or animation?
Hmm.
Something was going on right before you opened your mouth. So we talk to that person and we say, hey, George, I was needing some food for my pet. And Petco had the most amazing, clean, organic pet food, blah, 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 blah. And we walk ourselves right into that commercial or
You're sitting around
narration.
a table, you're with your friends, and you talked about where you shopped today, And
It,
something stood out to you today when you were at Petco.
exactly. Exactly. The C stands for character. Now, in an animation, they give you the character. But in a commercial or in a narration, who are you? Well, are
Mm,
you George, the teacher? Are you George, the coach? Are you George, the son? Are you
mm.
George, the friend? So you do have a character when you go into that spot.
But it's not
So
often spelled out in commercial what your POV is, I guess. Hmm.
exactly. So you have to know who you are in that particular spot.
Right.
So when I ask my kids and I teach them how to woodshed a script,
Hmm.
it's not you go up here, you go down there. It's not, but I do teach them also, if something is in bold, you give it a little punch. One of
Hmm.
the things that kids love to do is punch the and.
Mm.
Well, we don't say peanut butter and jelly.
Right. Hmm.
So it's usually the words before or after the word and. So I do teach what is important. We do learn how to use adjectives and maybe zhuzh up adjectives.
Hmm.
We do teach things that are important to emote. And, there's just so much to learn, but it all takes time. So you can't learn that in the first 3 lessons.
Absolutely. So that's all part of like your script analysis,
Yeah.
right? That's kind of where we start. And so how much do they spend marking up the script? Does it depend on the length of the script, the challenging parts of the script, the skill set of the performer, all those things?
Some kids or adults can just take a script and they just get it. Some
Yeah.
people, it takes a little work. I always tell people read that script and woodshed that script at least 3 or 4 times out loud. A script is never going to sound in your head like it sounds when you get on the mic.
So
Oh, it
true.
didn't sound like that in my head.
Right. Hmm.
So you've got to do it out loud
Right.
and
Mhm.
practice it.
Is that
And
when marking the script starts to come into play? Because you're realizing you need to give yourself some direction?
yes, definitely. And also, it's like if a word repeats itself, you don't want to say that same, like upspeak. You don't want to upspeak every sentence. If you go up on one sentence, you may want to go down. One of the first things I teach kids is rhythm.
Hmm.
And, there was a time when I learned quite a lot. I know this is I learned a lot from a woman who's no longer coaching.
Hmm.
But one of the first things I teach kids is rhythm.
Hmm.
How to do something smooth, something choppy, something syncopated. So if you're going to do something that has the same line, change up the rhythm.
Hmm.
Um, in the
It's
beginning,
musical.
voiceover is very, very musical. Often, when kids have taken the piano, they excel in voiceover because they
Mm.
understand staccato, legato, syncopated.
Mm.
Um,
Music, yeah, an advantage to have some musical ear and a little, even if it's minor training, just the discipline and the ear training of that is going to definitely help someone interpret script and coax a great performance out of it.
exactly. I teach kids how to slate a 3 in a row, one going up, one going down, one going straight across, because the slate is the first thing that they hear. And casting directors are going to throw out a slate in 2 seconds. And so if
Hmm.
your slate is not what they want to hear, they're going to throw it out. So I teach kids how to slate.
Hmm.
A slate for Children's Hospital
Hmm.
is not going to be the same for an animation or Petco or
The
Discovery
slate,
Channel.
the slate's the very, very first thing the client or the person auditioning you is hearing.
That's right. Your
And
first and last
that
name
sets the
and
mood, right?
yeah, it's your first and last name and the name of the product. And so somebody who says Martha Kahn Petco, do you think they're going to want to hire you?
Right, right. No, there's no energy. It doesn't show who you are. It's
Yeah,
flat. Hmm. So
exactly.
past that stage, but the instrument, the actual voice is important, the quality of the voice. Does everybody need to start with a warm up? Do you believe that that's crucial to get a great sounding instrument started?
Does a piano player do a concert without a warm up?
I
Do
would
singers
imagine
in a
not.
choir sing without a warm up? Does anybody who plays any musical instrument go on stage without a warm up? No.
Hmm.
I teach everyone I work with warm ups.
Yeah.
I teach them how to do sirens with their voice. I teach them articulation warm ups. My
Hmm.
sister is uh, she has her master's in speech pathology, and she actually taught me some warm ups, and they actually help with plosives.
Oh,
So
good.
I do plosive warm ups.
Hmm.
Plosives are those uh, words that pop on your editing, like p,
Yeah,
d.
you get a blast of air that hits the mic, and now you have this big spike in the audio.
Yeah.
Right. So you can coach and train yourself out of creating such big plosives?
Yes, you'd give a little smile like puddika, puddika, puddika,
Oh,
buddika, buddika,
yeah.
puddika, buddika,
Right.
ta da na la.
Hmm.
So you put a little smile on those, and it really helps with the plosives. I have a lot of different warm ups. Another really great one, and I've been teaching this for 15 years, and now they're making $50 kits to buy for this simple warm up, and it's called the Teetsy Straw Method, where you
Mm.
learn how to blow in a straw. And it's wonderful for soothing your vocal cords, especially if you have a sore throat or a cold.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it's great. And now people are making money off of this method where you just, you know, 15 years ago, I went to Bevmo and I bought a box of 1,000 straws and I still have
Right.
half a box. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, these techniques are long and tried and tested, and there's always going to be folks who find a way to make a little bit of a business around that one thing. It's a specialty, but that's business.
just Google
Um,
Titze, Titze. And
Titze. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
Inigo Titze. And he will show you how to do the straw method.
Fantastic. And then also articulation, you were saying how is that part of the rhythm or is that part of just how you use your tongue?
It's enunciation.
Yeah.
So the articulating muscles are in your cheeks and jaw. So they're just warm-ups for articulating because we tend to slur our words
Yeah.
and get lazy. Now, there's a time when you don't want to. You may say, I don't wanna. If
Hmm.
a narration is not formal, you may want to
Right.
say, I don't wanna, or I don't, instead of I don't want to. It depends on what the narration is. So, there's a
Sure.
lot to learn, and there are so many great coaches out there. But beware of coaches that make you any promises. Come
Right.
with me for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I'll give you a demo, and you're going to make money in voiceover. Beware
Right.
of any coaches that do that.
Some big package,
Yes.
that you make a big upfront investment. And then when you make a big upfront investment, you now have this expectation that you're going to get a return on that big upfront investment.
Yeah, there are no
Right.
guarantees in voiceover. And I also tell my clients this is a family business. When you go into voiceover, you have to learn how to edit, you have to have a home studio.
Hmm.
When you come into this and you have somebody who's going to be in the booth, the TV has to go off, the dog has to stop barking,
Right.
everybody in the family has to cooperate because whoever's in the booth needs quiet time. So don't think that because you take 10 or 12 voiceover lessons that you're going to become a voiceover star because
Right.
it's not going to happen.
And don't think that just because you buy a fancy booth doesn't mean instant silence either. So you might have a fancy booth. It still might mean that your kids or your sisters or whoever has to leave the home or just learn to pick up a book.
Or a fancy mic.
Yeah, exactly.
Not about the mic.
Exactly. Well, there's so many genres in voiceover. I know some of them you're very adept at coaching, but we can talk all day long about how many there are and the different subtleties. But I have listed here a few that are the most, I'd say, widely overarching, right? So you have commercials, narration, e-learning, audiobooks, animation and video games, which all lump together, even though they're very different industries, and then like explainer videos. So, what do most voice actors focus on when they get started? Where should they start?
So, I work mostly with kids, and when they
Right.
come aboard with me, they all want to do animation.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my feeling. I feel like commercials are the ballet of voiceovers. You have to learn in ballet first position, second position, third position, etc.
All these compulsory discipline technique that carries through your
Exactly.
whole career.
Exactly. And so I feel like commercials are the basics of voiceover. We start there and we do, depending on the person. If a child has a parent in voiceover, they already hear the rhythm and it kind of
Yeah.
trickles down. But if somebody who's never been in voiceover is going to need at least 8 weeks in commercials.
Yeah.
And then my preference, if they hang with me, is to do 4 to 8 weeks in narration.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do animation.
Oh,
And I
so
do it.
commercial, then narration, then animation.
I'll tell
Interesting.
you why I like narration.
Mm-hmm.
Narration is wonderful for learning phrasing.
Mm.
It's great to teach them to slow down. It's more of learning how to talk about something, not selling anything, but just explaining.
Yeah.
And I have them learn about phrasing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I teach them, first of all, I'm a voice actor. So
Mm-hmm.
all of
Right.
this is about acting. This is
Right.
all about learning how to act. And then we do 8 weeks of animation. The first couple weeks are reading monologues and learning that acting is reacting to somebody who is not there.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
then we go into characters in animation. By that time, I put them back in a few commercials. And by osmosis, with all of this, it's amazing how much has trickled down. And when they get back to a commercial script, the what they have learned all of a sudden click, 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 click. And I have had kids that I swear I never thought they would be voice actors. Everything just works. By
Wow.
that, they're ready for a demo.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go on Voice 123, which is a pay to play where companies pay to have kids or adults audition.
Sure.
And I've had kids book 10, 12 jobs in their first year, and then
Wow.
they're ready for an agent. And it's just a beautiful process because there's a method to my madness and it works.
So the online casting is in a way sort of like the minor leagues.
I would never call it minor leagues
Hmm.
because they can accrue clients just by going on Voice 123. And once they have a job, they don't have to go through Voice 123. They can get those clients
Mm-hmm.
they become their clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's really nothing minor about that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and they work. And I think what Voice 123 does is it makes them audition, it makes them edit, or their parents edit, or if you're an adult, it makes you edit.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you get used to knowing that the audition is the job, whether you get it or not. It teaches you about rejection and it
Right.
teaches you about celebration.
Mm.
All of
I know
those things.
rejection's a big part of it. And getting rejected in voiceover may not be the same as getting rejected face to face in a, on camera or, dance or some other performance. It's those are a little bit more notoriously harsh, right? It's in
Yeah.
your face. Um, but it still can be tough if you're not, you don't have a practice at receiving rejection. What do you tell people who have never really at that, and again, knowing a lot of your students are younger, what do you tell them when they haven't learned how to accept rejection yet?
Well, that is a tough one, and rejection is rejection no matter how you spell it. So with the kids, I tell them that your job is to audition, just like we
Right.
tell the adults. And that, this is a long run deal. This is not a sprint,
Mm-hmm.
it's a marathon. This is a long game. And
Right.
so you have to keep doing it, and you will work if you keep auditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the other thing, though, you can't stop studying. You can't say, oh, well, I studied with Martha, I did a demo, and now I'm done.
Right.
One of the things that I do is I try to have a monthly workshop with people like Malik Berger, Sarah Jane Sherman, Danielle Pretzfelder Jemchek, Lynn Ann Zager, all the top names
Yeah.
in voiceover that have enormous reputation as coaches. And I apologize if I forgot you
Oh, I
because
know. The
I,
danger of listing names is you'll always forget them.
yes, I have had the most amazing
Yeah.
top shelf coaches work with my kids, and I want them to I start them off, but I want them to continue with these coaches
Right.
around the country so that because you can't stop, just like
No.
adults, we can't stop. Mary Lynn Wisner has done several workshops for my kids. I'm trying to think who else. And the kids learn from the best.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do.
you can't stop. I've got an upcoming workshop with Christina Medina, and Dave Fenoy did a workshop, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm in talks with Debbie Derryberry. And
Mm-hmm.
so the kids learn, I prepare them, and then I want them, go on, little chickadees.
Right.
And the kids also, I have kids that have booked national animations, big ones. So, I mean, I have one girl's got a little plush toy,
Yeah, that's
of her
so great.
character. So, yeah, the kids book. And so,
Now, do any younger voices get into some of the more, dare I say, corporate, but do any of them find an interest or actually some success in doing the more of e-learning or explainer type content?
oh, yeah. Yeah, lots of them. Oh, I know. Tracy Lindley's kids do a lot of e-learning. I've got a lot of kids that do a lot of work in e-learning.
Because I
And
would think that e-learning would be really effective if you're teaching children to hear another voice that's of your peer, of a voice age that's appropriate. Wouldn't that be more effective that you're learning from? I mean, I would think so.
yes, when I do demos with the kids, I do a commercial demo and two e-learning spots, and they go on Voice 123 and they get e-learning jobs.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that kind of work out there, I would presume.
Yeah, they do an e-learning and a narration spot, and they get a lot of them, and then some of them get approached by other companies.
Right. Now, I didn't prepare you to come with any numbers today, but just giving it some thought. What is the most common area of voice work that people are more likely to start booking? This is probably not a fair question, but what do you think is the most by volume work that's available?
Whew, that's hard to say because I would say that there's a lot of narration work,
It's
but
shifting, I would imagine,
but there's
too.
there's been a lot of the kids have gotten a lot of animation work,
Hmm.
especially the kids who have agents and get animation work. But you can also get animation work from backstage, Actors Access. Um,
Hmm.
you know, um, I mean, I have one little girl. The very first audition I ever coached was for a little girl who found an audition for Masha and the Bear, and it was through Actors Access or Backstage.
Hmm.
And she booked it. And for 4 or 5 years, she was Masha. And then because of that, she got booked by Vox. And yeah, so, it's hard to say.
Yeah, it's
It's
hard to
just,
say.
and then there are kids that have gone on to get national commercials.
Right.
So,
But it's probably not the ideal mindset to think, okay, what is the most statistically largest uh, volume of work that's accessible to me? That's where I should put my energy. What you're telling me, what I'm picking up today, and what I'll leave us with is that there are still, it's like ballet. You have to learn basic skills that apply to these different genres, like commercial, being knowing who you are. And that's where you really should start, no matter what your intended genre is you want to focus on.
and most likely you have to have that commercial demo to put out
Hmm.
to agents, to potentials. They want the commercial demo. They're not looking for the narration demo right off the bat or the animation demo. They're looking for the commercial demo. And you have to be open to be able, I would say, especially as a child, to be able to do all the genres.
Mm, yes. Would you say the most successful voice actors tend to be successful in many different genres? Or do
I
they really get pigeonholed?
Well, for the kids, I would say they need to be able to do all of them. I can't say for the adults.
Yeah,
Because I think adults are known for their specific genres.
yeah,
But I mean, if we look at somebody like Lori Allen,
right. Hmm.
Lori can do anything.
Yeah.
I
A lot
mean,
of my most successful voice actor clients definitely have a very wide range.
yeah.
I mean, it's really amazing. I'll hear them on a Ralph's commercial, then I'll hear them on doing a movie trailer, you
Yeah, look
know?
at Scott Parkin. I mean,
Yeah.
Scott can do anything.
Yep. And Scott
So,
Rummel, the other Scott I was thinking of.
yeah. Look at our Scotts. Great Scott.
And then the king of audiobooks, Scott Brick, you know. It's good to be Scott.
Well, and you know what? That leaves me with a closing statement that again, we are actors. We are not people that talk. We are people that act. And so I consider myself an acting coach.
Hmm.
And I teach acting techniques because when I hear somebody say, we're not actors, we talk for a living, we just read. No, we're actors. We're voice actors. And it is a craft to be very proud of.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time. This was really nice. You know, we have so many folks come on the show and talk about the specifics of what they're doing in their program. I've never really gotten to talk to somebody about what it means to be a voice actor, what you need to learn, and just the basics. And so I really appreciate you being here to share that with us today.
Thanks, George.
Thank you, Martha. And if somebody wants to get a hold of you and possibly work with you with their child, how do they get a hold of you?
CahnKidsVoiceover.com or MarthaKahn.com.
And spell that for the podcast listeners.
KAHN Kids Voiceover.com.
Just want to make sure we get your last name spelled right.
You know what?
Thank you.
CahnKidsVoiceover.com.
Thanks, Martha.
Thanks,
So great to
George.
see you. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks.